Hello and welcome to a rather soggy oak house. When John Turton bought Oak House and lots of land off his father in 1634 and moved in, this is essentially what he bought. He bought a rather nice, smart and posh farmhouse, suitable for a wealthy yeoman farmer, which is what he was at the time. And also, like his Turton relatives, he was an industrialist locally. So the Turtons were making nails, they were finishing blades and other sorts of metalwork in their mills. However, John was very ambitious and he wanted to get up the social ladder as well as make his family richer, which he did over the course of his life. And by the 1650s, he was a gentleman and he was earning even more money. He'd become a money lender, lending money to impoverished royalists who'd been fined heavily after the Civil War. So John set about improving his home to make it fit for a gentleman. And one of the first things he did was build these enormous chimney stacks and the belvedere, which you see, which is that sort of tower sticking out the top. Now, you might not think anything about chimneys like this today, but in the 1650s, these would have been huge status symbols, and people would have known that if you could afford such humongous chimneys, that you were certainly pretty wealthy. Also, the belvedere, the lookout tower, would have been a status symbol. It might have been somewhere you could take your guests up to look out over all the land that you own. It also was an interesting architectural feature, so would have been a bit of a talking point and unusual. It still is, people believe, perhaps the only timber-framed belvedere still surviving or existing, but even if it isn't, it's still certainly very, very unique. John also installed a basement, and here is the door. It's one of the original doors, where he put all the domestic features that were once in outbuildings outside. So all the brewing of beer went on down there, and also he installed this rather fantastic staircase, which is rather wonderful for a house like this. He built this very stylish brick extension at the back with very fashionable Dutch gables. Certainly a home fit for a gentleman that would have been seen for many miles around, as we're on top of a ridge here. And the basement that he had installed also meant that now there were none of those domestic functions. The timber framed extension you see on the right was where he put the dairy, the brew house down in the cellar. That meant that in front of the house he could now have some rather beautiful formal gardens. He added this dairy that was attached to the kitchen area. Here's another view from the side, which again showcases those amazingly tall chimneys that John had installed. And here is the old barn that John Turton had built, probably in the 1650s. This was actually a stable block that he used for his horses. We also think now that by this time John Turton was actually quite getting into horse racing, so it may be that some of those horses were actually racing horses. So by the time John Turton died in the 1670s, the Oak House was certainly a home fit for a gentleman.